So, over the past couple of weeks, I actually binged through the entirety of Squid Game for the very first time. I knew it was the most popular show on Netflix. I had known that since 7th grade when the first season came out. I remember it was a big, gigantic hit, and I had never seen it when I was in 7th grade. My channel existed at that time, but I had just never seen it. And I'd heard a lot of great things about it. It had so much hype around it, all the Roblox games and everything. And I never watched it until just 2 weeks ago. And I decided to binge through the entire series because of the final season, Season 3, dropped. And I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on Season 3 in particular. Now, if you want to know what I thought of Season 1 and Season 2 of Squid Game, I thought Season 1 was very good. It was just a very interesting exploration on the human desires and selfishness and greed that humans have and how we can give into our worst tendencies. I thought the themes in there worked very well. With Season 2, I thought it was good, where they found new interesting angles with some different characters and how Gi-hun 456 is sent back to the games. Thought it was nicely done in Season 2. And that will bring us to Season 3. Let's just get straight into the review on this one. So, like I just said, I dug the first 2 seasons. I didn't dig Season 2 as much as Season 1, but I thought that Squid Game was just a show that you can get invested in very easily, with a great sort of concept about children's games and broke people getting sent over to this island to play children's games, but it's like a life or death situation. Very interesting concept, executed very well, especially in Season 1. Season 2 is kind of like, Season 2 and 3 are kind of meant to go together, where Season 2 is the first half and Season 3 is the second half of this particular set of games. So they're more like they're meant to be watched together. This is more like Season 2 Part 2 than it is Season 3. But I just want to share my thoughts on Season 3 because that's what just came out right now, and I know a bunch of people are talking about it. And simply put, I thought that this season had some of the highest elements of Squid Game and also some of the absolute lowest elements of Squid Game. Well, let's just start talking about our positives. I'm going to give a spoiler warning, probably in the title of this video, but here we go. Spoilers out here, spoiler warning, spoil away in the comment section. You have been warned. Okay. So, basically, I thought what really worked about this particular season is that the highs of this season, I thought were actually higher than Season 2's highs, where especially I think the deaths in this season are actually very emotional and very kind of depressing even. Like, just going over some of the games, like hide and seek, there are several deaths in hide and seek, and some of them that work really well for me is Player 120's death. I don't remember her name, but it's Player 120, where she finds the exit, goes back to Player 149 and Jun-ho 222, who's just given birth. Some of these names I can't remember. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing them. I don't speak Korean or anything like that, but sorry if I'm mispronouncing the names. But like Jun-ho and 149, the mom, they just gave birth to the baby. 120 decides to come back and tell him she's found the exit, and Myung-gi 333, the father of the baby, kills her as a senseless act of violence, because he'd already passed the game, and he just did this for the money. Peer pressured by Namgyu to do this because of the money. And it's a very sad death. Another one right after that is Young-sik, the son of the mother that helped deliver the baby, where he is very scared. He's unable to kill anybody in this game. And she offers for him to kill her, and he can't bring himself to do it. So he ends up targeting like the newborn baby instead. And she, her motherly instinct, stabs her own son. That's a very sad way to think about it for both characters. Like, the mother just had to kill their own son, her own son, that she cared for her entire life, and she entered the games to pay off his debts, and she ended up killing him. And there's something very kind of like, ugh, a mother killed their own son. Like, there's something very kind of like gut-wrenching, kind of gross about that, but in the right ways, in the emotions that the show wants you to feel. Also, by adding a baby into the mix, having Jun-ho give birth, it's very interesting because it kind of capitalizes more on the human greed element of the entire show in general, where the baby is inserted in as a player in the games, and then the baby starts getting targeted by all these other people. They do not care that they're about to kill a child. They're just here for the money, and they don't want their money to be reduced. So that's what they end up. So they end up targeting the baby, and it kind of capitalizes on that human greed element to it that I thought actually worked quite nicely. As always, the games are very tense. Like, one of the games in Season 2 I wasn't crazy about, but I thought all the games here were actually very tense in situations that made sense for the characters to be in. And we'll get to more of that later on when I talk about the negatives, but very tense situations that you put the characters in that in Squid Game has always pretty much worked from beginning to end, and it never lets down. It always keeps you invested every episode. And so there were a bunch of things that in general I really liked about this season. And there are also a bunch of things that I really didn't like about this season. I felt like for every highlight of Season 3 in particular, there was a low light also. There was something working against that. So whether I was talking about the deaths earlier, right, where all these major characters die, and I forgot to mention this emotional one where the mother of the son that she just killed can't bring herself to accept that, so she hangs herself. There are some absolutely gut-wrenching moments here. Ones that you just can't help but draw emotions out of. And in the jump rope game, Jun-ho sacrifices herself for her baby. Like, a bunch of stuff that really works here about the games and the deaths. But also, all the characters that you actually do care about, aside from Gi-hun and Myung-gi, they all die before the final game. So in the final game, it's Gi-hun and Myung-gi and the baby, and there are other just absolute nobodies. They're just random people in the game that they're all greedy, and so it's not like an interesting finale or anything. Like, Min-soo is now like a drug addict, so you don't really care about him anymore, and it just, you didn't really care as much until the very end of the final game, because in the final game, before that, they killed off a bunch of the characters that you cared about. So in the final game, it's just a bunch of actual nobodies in it. And 333, Myung-gi, his ending, the way they ended his character felt very kind of unsatisfying. Where there was an interesting way to go with this character. This character that is the mother of the baby that... not the mother. He's the father of the newborn baby. And he's trying to protect the baby in the finale. And as soon as him, Gi-hun, and the baby are the only ones left, he actually turns into a psychopath that threatens to kill his own baby. And there was I kind of get what they were going for here, but there was a much more interesting way of going about it that, like, his change felt so fast into psychopath that it didn't feel like it was earned. It felt like he just switched up from trying to protect his baby from all these selfish people. I keep fixing my hair here. He's trying to protect his baby from all these selfish people, immediately switches up to threatening his baby to death. And I didn't feel like it was at all believable. And major plotline that goes absolutely nowhere here is the detective plotline, where the detective is just unbelievably stupid. Like, the captain that is taking him to the Squid Game Island is acting very suspicious all throughout this season. I'm sorry, I had to let out that sneeze. But the captain is acting very suspicious, and Detective Huang is just kind of passing that off, and ultimately his entire team dies. And when he makes it to Squid Game Island, when he actually makes it there, he's only there for like actually 30 seconds, shoots a window, looks at his brother, and says why, and then goes away and the island blows up. So we spent an entire 2-season journey, really 1 season split up into 2. We spent this entire season with him searching the island, and when he actually gets there, it doesn't pay off at all. He got there for absolutely nothing. This entire plotline was for absolutely nothing. And, you know, like, there's just things like that that just didn't sit right with me. The very end of the show, where they tease American Squid Game with Cate Blanchett as the American saleswoman, it felt like it was trying very hard to set up like this expanded universe of Squid Game, where I think there was something satisfying with the ending, with the frontman being changed by watching Gi-hun sacrifice himself for the baby, and him realizing that not all humans are total scumbags and very selfish, because Gi-hun is a selfless person and sacrificed his own life for a baby because he made a promise, and he's not selfish. There's something satisfying about that. And then at the very end, they tried setting up this American spinoff that apparently is happening with David Fincher. That I'm not a big fan of the way they did that. I think they could have ended it satisfyingly instead of trying to set up a cinematic universe. They were trying too hard to capitalize on the Squid Game hype. So there were just a bunch of things that that kind of annoyed me a little bit about this season. It's not bad, but it's not particularly good either. So, yeah, those are just my thoughts on it. Overall, I'll give it a C+. But down below in the comment section, share what you thought of Squid Game Season 3 over on my channel. There's more content like this. Check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.